Hi, Death by Water Part 6. So I just talk a little bit about the beginning of Don Le Restaurant. That's relevant because it mentions Phlebas the Phoenician towards the end of the poem. As I said, I haven't found a decent translation, so I don't want to look through the whole of the poem and then realise that I was looking at the wrong translation type thing. And my French really isn't that good. So it starts with something like the waiter, idle and neglected. Idle, like the reference there could also be idol. So referring to the waiter is actually a representative of a god figure, with nothing to do but strum and lean over my shoulder. The phrase gratter les doigts is like tapping your fingers when you're bored, but when I looked at what other meanings of that could be, it could be related to the strumming of an instrument, I think. So that made me think of possibly Lyra, the constellation, which I think is near Hercules. And with the reference to the shoulder, it made me think of Atlas. So then it says, in my country it rains, or it will rain, wind, sun, and the rain. And something like we call it the laundry of the beggars or something like that. Rain made me think of the Hyades, the star cluster in Taurus, which is associated with April showers, which is the cruelest month that we began the wasteland with. They were also the nymphs that may have nursed Dionysus, and a fictional city of Carcosa, mentioned in several pieces of literature, including Lovecraft, Robert Chambers, The King in Yellow. Songs that the Hyades shall sing where flap the tatters of the king must die unheard in dim Carcosa. Maybe that's the stage that Eliot was referring to, The King in Yellow. So Hyades is near Pleiades, the Seven Sisters Road is in Highbury, and together they make the Golden Gate of the Ecliptic. I did find a better translation of the Lune de Miel poem. The problem with the Don Le Restaurant is what comes up is Pound's translation, which is not a translation of what Eliot actually wrote. I could look at them both together, but I think I'm just going to drive myself absolutely crazy. So the reason why I find Lune de Miel interesting is because it says in it, this couple will travel and find an inexpensive restaurant. So I think in the restaurant is an extension of the honeymoon poem. So here we go. Lune de Miel is a lunar month following the wedding, and it's become known as honeymoon. Miel is a homophone of meal. It means honey, as in the Last Supper. So it begins, they have seen the Low Countries. They are going back to Terre Haute. So Low Countries, they've seen the dead lands, essentially. They're going back to higher ground, the land of the living, where the Low Countries, dead countries, could refer to what they were doing on their honeymoon. But one summer night, finding them in Ravenna at ease. So there I was like, there's a reference to the Raven and the resting place of Dante. I'm sure there's much more to look at. Between two sheets in the home of 200 bugs, I'll continue with relief.